Okay, so as I said, we're going to explore how we can stay resilient emotionally while staying open to all the pain of the world, especially the ecological crisis, and engaged with it, being open without losing heart, being able to see the difficulty and challenge and suffering, of this world and not lose heart, not lose our ability to be engaged and somehow doing what we can to make a difference. And so the whole premise we could say of eco dharma, which is, the premise of our meditation center, but just the whole understanding of eco dharma in general, we could say a very simple way to frame it is, our mission at the center is to help activists learn to meditate and help meditators become more active. So maybe a way to say that is get activists on their butts and get meditators off their butts. And that's, really the whole premise of how we can be more effective. Dharma has a lot to offer us in this whole inquiry of staying resilient and open and engaged. And the Buddhist tradition is really helpful because we can start with the first noble truth that, there's difficulty in life, there's dukkha. And Buddhism starts with this not to be morbid, but just because it's so real. And being real is really, it's necessary, of course. It also happens to be the road to awakening. The Buddhist tradition believes the universe to be benevolent. If we pay attention, the universe will wake us up. We will see the natural consequences. And climate change is just something, there's just natural consequences. It's you could almost say it's karma, what is happening, and the way that natural disasters are on the increase because of our own, not tending to our relationship with the earth. So compassion is really the Buddhist answer, one Buddhist answer for how we deal with all the difficulty in the world. And compassion is really gives us the ability to move closer to discomfort and pain instead of trying to avoid it. When we avoid reality, then we take trouble and we make it double. The avoidance, can be more painful than the original pain. We have pain plus the pain of avoiding it. And I can say this next thing from a place of compassion, not a place of judgment. The way to be with our pain is to let it be painful. And we need compassion to be able to do this, to be able to be soft and open when it's painful. That's where we need compassion. Compassion is just this, kindness to pain. And compassion is the natural expression of the awake heart. And with compassion, literally the word means to suffer with. But we're not drowning. When we're compassionate towards someone, we're not drowning in someone's suffering. We're more sort of floating on the current of someone's pain. And being overwhelmed by the pain of the world or the pain of one person is not compassion. If we're drowning, we can't save a drowning person. So compassion is this quality of heart, allowing us to stay centered and open when there's pain. It cuts the chain of reactivity and it accepts pain. And when we think of dukkha and just that lawfulness of life, that there's pain in life, we tend to think something's wrong if we're in some kind of pain or discomfort. But the truth of dukkha is saying nothing's wrong. It's just the way reality is. Reality is full of joy and happiness, and it's also got plenty of difficulty and pain in it. Nothing's wrong. Our minds tend to be very reactive against pain. Well, the spiritual teacher, Byron Katie, when she was here in Boulder 10, 12 years ago, something like that, she had worked with torture victims, and to a person, people who were survivors of torture told her the most painful thing is the projection of what was going to happen. That was the real terror of torture. The fear of the pain was worse than the pain itself. So how do we stay open as we work with pain? And compassion has this quality of making difficulty in another person a bridge of connection. When we can open to the pain somebody's in, we can feel so connected to them. My mother died, a little over 4 years ago. Seems like 6 months ago. And in her last year of life, my mother was a very active woman in Oklahoma politics and very engaged person. And she, the last year of her life was really hard on her because she really, was mostly homebound. And she couldn't see herself helping in any way. And that was hard for her. And she was pretty depressed with that. And I would do compassion meditation for her. And it was bizarrely uplifting to, consider my mom and what she was going through and hold her in my heart and wish her well. And the uplifting part was that I felt so connected to her. So this is the beauty of compassion through really someone's pain, which is our pain because we share pain. That shared pain is a bridge of connection, and the connection keeps us buoyant. We care about someone's pain and we wish them to not be in pain, and that feels good. And so compassion is also a beautiful doorway in just seeing the way we're all struggling human beings. It really shows us our shared humanity. It's disarming. The poet Longfellow wrote, I'm going to be all gender in my use of his quote, if we could read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each person's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. To open to our pain, the pain of others, is to be so human. And there's a beautiful scene in the movie about Fred Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And the movie is inspired by journalist Tom Junod's article in Esquire. And the movie's basically, if you haven't seen it, about this kind of hard-boiled, cynical journalist, thinking he's been assigned a fluff piece to write an article on Mr. Rogers. And the movie is all about their encounters over a few years. where Mr. Rogers just kind of people whispers Tom Junod and, really like opens his heart to kindness. And they're in a conversation. Mr. Rogers is with Tom and his family, and Tom's father is dying, and they're all sitting around talking about a family vacation they could maybe take together, and they're really enjoying the planning of it. And then the father says, "Yeah, but I'm not sure I'll make it." And so there's this very long silence, and Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, breaks the ice, and he says, because they're all thinking about Tom's father dying, he says, death is something many of us are uncomfortable speaking about. But to die is to be human. And anything human is mentionable. And anything mentionable is manageable. Wisdom from Mr. Rogers. And he's just talking about this bridge of connection we feel by just opening to the reality of pain. And Leonard Cohen, in his song Anthem, he talks about the way our pain opens our heart and makes us open to all of life. He sings, every heart to love will come. But like a refugee, ring the bells that can still ring, forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So, compassion is beautiful because instead of trying to avoid pain, we move closer to it, and it humanizes us and really ennobles us. And there's an important distinction to make. We're going to do some compassion practice. There's an important distinction to make between empathy and compassion. Compassion contains empathy, but it's more than just empathy. Empathy is feeling with another person, and compassion is based on the empathy. It's adding the wish for a person to be free of their suffering. And studies show that there is such a thing as too much empathy. If we over-identify with someone's pain, the brain centers related to emotional dysregulation get activated in the brain. That doesn't happen with compassion, which is really interesting. In one study, a compassion meditation group compared to an empathy group, the empathy group was less willing to take action. Somehow the study demonstrated that to help another than the compassion group. And compassion contains this willingness to help, to take action. So the key with our compassion practice is that we join with someone's pain without merging with it. Again, a drowning person can't save a drowning person. We're not useful. So in the meditation we're going to do, we're going to focus on something painful, but we don't want to get swept away in the story of it. We want to just stay with a simple little kernel of truth. We don't need the big elaborate story. That's kind of the head's job. The heart's job, the heart just, all it needs is the simple, situation. So with my mom, I could feel, just that pain that she couldn't feel herself being helpful. And that's all I needed. And I could just tune into that. So We'll do some practice, compassion practice around the climate crisis and sort of how you're doing with it and how other people are doing with it. So you might just contemplate now, when you consider what's going on with climate change or the ecological crisis more generally, what's the main thing you feel just right now? Anxiety, grief, anger, numbness, something else? And we're going to bring compassion to ourselves, to our hearts. But we'll do a short practice. So this is really just, kind of a introduction to working with compassion. And of course, if we had more time, we might consider how we can do compassion meditation for beings, who are suffering due to the climate crisis. But in the interest of time, let's start by opening to our own experience and what's difficult, what emotion might be difficult, and then sending ourselves compassion. And then we're going to broaden out and consider other people that might be feeling similarly. So if you would, assume a comfortable posture, upright and relaxed, closing the eyes. So in this practice, we're just going to open to just a very simple and basic way we know we struggle with the climate crisis or the eco crisis. And with compassion, as I've said, we just have a very simple story of our pain. And then we use meditation as a way to focus the mind. We stay out of the big story and we are kind to the pain. We're sending ourselves kind wishes. And these are the classical phrases. I care about this pain. May I be free from suffering. I care about this pain. May I be free from suffering. And you just keep repeating these phrases in a rhythm that feels natural to you. I care about this pain. May I be free from suffering. You can change the wording. Maybe you can, if it feels like it's a little inauthentic to say, I care about this pain. If that's not quite how you're feeling, you can say, I'm aware of this pain. I feel this pain. May I be free from suffering. Okay. And now, if you would recognize that many, many people are in some kind of distress, just like you. Fear, grief, anger, confusion, numbness. And you can just imagine your circle of care expanding, and you can send out your wishes to any being facing any kind of difficulty with the ecological crisis. And you can continue the phrases. I like to say we because we're all in this together. I care about our pain. May we all be free from suffering. I care about our pain. May we all be free from suffering. Very easy to get swept away in big story now. Keep it simple. Just let the heart contact the pain of the world and send kindness to it. I care about our pain. May we all be free from suffering. So our second installment of emotional resiliency is working with a technique called Rata, which is my a variation of Michelle McDonald's approach to mindfulness of emotions called RAIN. So with Rata, we start with recognizing, that's the R, recognizing what we're feeling. We name it. And then the first A stands for accept or allow what we're feeling. And I suggest to just say, of course, to whatever you're feeling. And the third element, the first, which is T, R-A-T, the T is turned towards in the body. And the A is then away in the body. We turn our attention to where the emotion isn't in the body. I also mentioned the three secrets of being able to be open with our emotions, but not swept away by them. And those three secrets are sensation, sensation, sensation. So Rata is a technique for changing from being reactive towards our emotions to being curious about them. And we feel them in the body because we're in the present moment experience in the body. And we're also out of all the drama of our thoughts. So that's a quick summary of emotional resiliency through mindfulness of emotions. And when we do open to our emotions mindfully with this kind attention, we do find that our emotions are energy that wants to move. An emotion rises, crests, and then kind of dissipates all on its own, again, if we're able to stay mindful of it. So I just want to kind of check in with folks and see if you have any questions or comments about working with any emotion you're feeling in relation to the ecological crisis, climate change. I'm going to just make a space for anyone who hasn't participated yet. Anyone care to chime in if you haven't? Yeah, please.
There.
Yeah.
I have a question about the last one, away from the body, the things that your places or sensations you're not feeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you explain more about that? It seems so wispy and nebulous.
Well, what's not like? What's the emotion that you're working with?
I would say it is anger and numbness and helplessness.
Okay. So with anger, where were you noticing it in the body?
Oh, probably my head.
And can you recall the sensation that you felt in your head?
Tight.
Okay. So then with the A of turn away, you want to then feel the rest of the body and notice where, just intuitively you understand, oh, the anger is not activating my body lower down, torso, legs, feet, hands, arms, back.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. The reason we do this is because we tend to be very identified with something we're feeling. And so we're just going to only feel the tightness in the head. And then we think that's all we are. But if we turn our attention and just feel the rest of the body, it would be more nebulous because there's not an emotional charge. There's just going to be sensation without being tied to emotion in the rest of the body. So that itself is information. The information being, oh, there's more happening than anger. You know, there's calmness or whatever in the rest of the body. And so then it helps us have the insight, oh, I am not my anger. If the tightness is just in the head,
Okay.
not in the rest of the body, if I say I am angry, those words don't track my experience because, you know, maybe the breath, like in the belly, is just kind of moving freely, or you feel a buzz or tingle in the legs. That's not
Yeah.
anger. So
Yeah.
that's why we turn away. And your experience of it being nebulous is actually good information. It's like, oh, you know, there's only anger in a part of me, so I'm not angry. The language that works better is there is anger or anger is known. That's tracking your experience more. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, Elaine?
Yeah, I'm wondering, what if, like, I was having tingling in my abdomen
Yeah.
and I don't know what I, s- I can't, it doesn't, I can't figure out what that is. I've been having it lately, so I'm assuming it's got something to do with my concerns, but I'm making assumptions. I don't know for sure what that sensation is. Do you have any suggestions?
By that, do you mean you're not sure what emotion it's related to?
Right.
And what is the emotion that you're working with or you were when there
Oh,
was?
oh, I've got a lot of I've got a lot of emotions going on right now around oh, the climate, the people, you name it. It's I feel a lot of helplessness.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Well, I guess the best way I can explain what I feel is I was out to dinner and I was given a coaster yesterday or Friday, and it said, and it said, do something, either lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I thought, and that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I need to be doing something, but I don't know what that is.
Right.
And so, and I've been talking to a few friends, and we're all feeling kind of similarly,
Yeah.
um, in terms of, okay, what do I do now? Um, what's what can I do? And I don't know if that fluttery sensation I'm getting in my gut has something to do with that, which I suppose it could, but I really don't know.
Right.
Um,
So I think
so,
what yeah, when there's just a lot of different feelings and helplessness is one of them, and there's kind of it sounds like I don't know if it's confusion or just not knowing like what to do next. You know, you can sort of name all of that as like that's just kind of the emotional swirl in your head of the moment. And
mhm,
so you could even, I mean, for me, I might just call that swirl.
yeah,
uh, and then and then I can feel I would still want to be feeling that tingling in the belly, um, and just be with it because you know it's not exactly clear in your mind, but let your experience kind of give you the answer. Just keep feeling it,
okay.
and then you also want to feel the other parts of the body where there isn't tingle, where it doesn't seem, you know,
Right.
um,
And I did that while
yeah,
we were on the practice, and it dissipated.
yeah,
But then as soon as I stopped feeling other parts of my body, it came back.
yeah.
So,
Well,
but I like the word you put out there, confusion. I
okay,
think that I
sure,
think part of it.
okay.
So okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so part 3 now. And this is all obvious, so I'm just going to tell you what you already know. So it's just a reminder. The other big piece in resiliency, in addition to going inside with compassion and mindfulness, of course, the other huge piece of resiliency is connecting with others. And we're such social beings. I want to just read a little article. This was part of an article in the New York Times about a psychological study back in 2009. Last year, researchers studied 34 students at the University of Virginia, taking them to the base of a steep hill and fitting them with a weighted backpack. They were then asked to estimate the steepness of the hill. Some participants stood next to friends during the exercise, while others were alone. The students who stood with friends gave lower estimates of the steepness of the hill, and the longer the friends had known each other, the less steep the hill appeared. It's amazing that something as simple and seemingly objective, like just a simple physical perception, how steep is a hill? That is affected strongly by how related we feel. We're incredibly social beings. You know, that's why meditation retreats are with people. We're all in silence, we're not talking to each other, but even that silence is contagious. Oh, this is what we're all doing. Okay, we're all silent now. It's really helpful to be in a group, you know, doing that. We're so social that there was an article also in the New York Times last month called How Loneliness is Damaging Our Health. The article said, even before the pandemic, the United States Surgeon General Vivek Murthy said the country was experiencing, quote, an epidemic of loneliness, end quote, driven by the accelerated pace of life and the spread of technology into all our social interactions. With this acceleration, he said, efficiency and convenience have edged out the time-consuming messiness of real relationships. The result is a public health crisis on the scale of the opioid epidemic or obesity, Dr. Murthy said. Being lonely, like other forms of stress, increases the risk of emotional disorders like depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Less obviously, it also puts people at greater risk of physical ailments such as heart disease, cancer, stroke, hypertension, dementia, and early death. An often cited study compared the risk effects of loneliness, isolation, and weak social networks to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Unbelievable. So, we're very social beings. Our culture, ironically, in the age of social media, has become lonelier. And so a primary principle of eco-dharma work is getting some company for the things we feel about the climate crisis, the ecological crisis. Just the mere act of talking to others about how we're doing is helpful. It helps us connect. So I thought what we would do tonight is just do some brief sharing with other people. And if we had more time, let's just do a real quickie. The first thing we can do, and we'll just do, maybe just 2 shares, because we're going to, talk about some of our difficult feelings about what we're doing to the planet. But let's first, just anyone, please, what is something you are grateful for about this planet, this beautiful earth we live on? Just feel free to unmute and share anything you're grateful for.
I'm sitting
The
on
clouds.
Go ahead, Larry.
The clouds. Lately, there's been big billowing clouds floating over with breaks of sunshine and a little spattering here and there of rain. And I find myself being elevated just in the observation of that phenomena.
Cool. And I think, Piero, did you want to?
I just want to say that I'm very aware of the abundance of this planet, how abundant it is and all it gives to us. And that's what I'm grateful for.
Thank you.
I'm sitting on my front porch, just a lovely breeze on and off, and the leaves are rustling. It's just exquisite.
Yay. Sorry, Cody.
I have the front. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Please, Denise.
I was just going to say I have the front door open and there's a breeze blowing and I can see trees outside my two windows kind of moving. And what I'm most grateful for is that when I feel anxious or lonely, I just go for a walk and it just completely calms me down. It's just being in nature is such a great gift.
Beautiful. I'll name, yesterday, my nephew and I were sitting on a friend's porch, just looking at the Flatirons, and we were appreciating how you can look back at the, photos from early Boulder, 1870, and the Flatirons look exactly the same. The culture's changed like crazy, but those Flatirons are just sitting there. So beautiful.
Yeah, I'll echo actually both that and what Piero said about the abundance, as there's just an endless supply of beauty, of course, and also the geologic time. I think sometimes not to give in too much to that hopelessness or that complete surrender, though I think, as we've been talking about tonight, that's also very valid and part of the process. But sometimes when I'm feeling, kind of overwhelmed, I take a step back and think about geologic time and realize that, we're kind of a blip. And in some ways that's wonderful too. It's perspective. It's perspective. So very grateful for that. So yes, here's to the Flatirons and how little they will change in the course of, human history.
I am
Awesome.
really grateful for the
Last one, please. Yeah, Elaine, please.
I'm grateful for all the trees.
Sweet. I'm sorry, Sharon, did you unmuted? So
I'm really grateful for the beauty that we generally don't see under the ocean and all of the life under there, and it's just breathtaking. And hopefully you have your tank on when that takes your breath, because it's really gorgeous.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, let's do. Now, I thought what we could do, and this will be brief, just we don't have a ton of time left. There's actually an even number of you, so I thought we could do a exercise just with another person, and I'll just kind of randomly assign you, and it'll be 3 parts. So one of you speaks, just one, and the question is, for you tonight, right now, what's the main mood or emotion that's getting evoked as we talk about climate change? And so the first person just speaks, and you're just gonna talk about what you feel right now. It's just a way to share ourselves, our feelings. And then we'll just go about 3 minutes, and then I'll send a little message to switch. And then the second person speaks. And one of you speaking at a time is good, because it's just a chance for each person to really be present with their own experience. So please just listen if you're the listener, and don't make comments, or no need to try to make a person feel differently or better. Just if you're listening, let the person just be present with themselves as they speak. So first speaker, 3 minutes, second speaker, 3 minutes. And then you can do some back and forth for a little bit. And in the back and forth, it's not, you can just speak to your own experience, like if someone said something that evoked something for you, then, talk about your own experience. I mean, it's fine to say, I heard you say blah, blah, blah. Then you're not interpreting or analyzing the person, but you're just really letting them know, you heard them. So that'll be in the third part. So is that all clear? And this is confidential, just so people feel safe to share whatever's in their heart in this moment. So everything stays between you and your partner. It doesn't leave your little dyad. So I will just type the question in the chat. Okay, and then you will, in your breakout room at the very end, you will get a message that you are going to automatically leave the breakout room in 60 seconds. You don't need to do anything, just let that process happen. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, now this is interesting. I am the host. I'm going to pause the recording for a second.